Well, ladies and gentlemen, folks listening to us from their comfy homes, today I've taken the onus, today I will be introducing you to someone who already is well versed with the company and the company knows him very well as well. And to be honest with you, this is the second time that I've been given this daunting task of introducing Klaus. I refrained from taking his entire name today because today we will be in conversation with Klaus and not Klaus Kohlmayr.
Ta-da! Here I am.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
the
you so
drum roll.
much. Well, that's the first time that I've done it on Kasakai Ideas. And
Okay.
as per our ritual, I will have to start with asking you, Kasakai Klaus, how are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you. Obviously, a very difficult time for everyone, and having been in the industry for about 30 years, on a personal level, it's very sad to see a lot of my friends and colleagues, ex-colleagues, people that used to work for me, being without a job, temporarily or permanently. So that's very hard.
Yeah.
But it's great to see the general spirit of optimism in the industry around the world. And even today, when I was going through LinkedIn in the morning, I saw a lot of people commenting on hotels reopening and people getting back to work. First meetings are happening in hotels already, and I saw some videos on that. So I'm cautiously optimistic that things will go forward. So it's good to be, and I'm an eternal optimist. So to the point where actually somebody sent me a link on LinkedIn, sent me a message saying, "Can you just stop being so positive and optimistic?" And I'm like, well, there's always a bright rainbow. There's always a rainbow at the end of the rain, right? So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, well, those are words that I think uh, a lot of people right now should live by. And I know that probably it's very tempting to be a pessimist or very tempting to be a realist, if I may say that. But I think optimism is the only way out of this tunnel. And indeed, as you just said it in a very different word, there is light at the end of this tunnel, and I'm sure of that as well. Right. So, well, let's hit straight to the point. Klaus, as I spoke in my introduction, I know it is a very daunting task to introduce you. The simplest way to go is to say a revenue management evangelist. But today I am here to speak with you as Klaus.
Mhm.
So is it okay if I go ahead and indulge in some questions that go beyond the pricing and profit game?
Sure, you're making me all nervous, but go ahead. I'm well prepared.
Well, talking of nervousness, you have no clue, but then I have one small advisory for you. I'd like you to read my t-shirt if you can, if I don't know if you can or not.
Yeah,
And it
old
says,
enough. Yeah, old enough to know better, young enough. I can't read the bottom. Young
yeah,
enough
oh, young enough to do it
to
anyway.
do it anyway. There we go.
Right. So I am very nervous and I'm wearing this to remind myself that I'm young enough to ask you some questions that I've been waiting to ask for a very long time. So
Good.
to start with, in starters, in your LinkedIn bio, we read that you've mentioned something to do with your nature of challenging the status quo that drove your parents crazy, that left the teachers exasperated. I'd like you to narrate one story, one interesting story from your childhood that could reflect that.
Yeah, I guess my childhood, it was more the teenage years, when I was in school. I did not like school. That's the first thing. I always felt school was boring, and I literally refused to study or put any effort into a couple of the subjects. And funnily enough, for example, French was one of the subjects that I told the teacher when I was 15 or 16. I said, I'm not going to do anything about it because I'll never use it. Only then later to end up in France and work in France and Geneva for a while. So I actually had to learn French at that point. But when I was 15, I told my French teacher, forget about me ever learning French because it's just useless. And she was to let me pass the class. But that was kind of my attitude when I was 15, 16, a rebel. And it did drive my parents and my teachers crazy.
Well, I wonder what the conversation would have been like. You don't wish to learn French. No, I don't wish to learn French. That's it. End of matter. I'm sorry, Klaus. Have we lost you?
Absolutely. And the other, I mean, stenography. No, can you hear me?
All right. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. Or stenography. I don't know, shorthand. That was the other thing that we had to learn in school. And I'm like, in the upcoming age of computers, who would ever use stenography, right? I'm not going to be a journalist that needs to take shorthand, interviews or anything. So I refuse to learn that too. And I never used it ever in my life. So I guess that was a good thing not to learn that.
All right, wonderful. Moving on to the next question, if I may. Uh, in one of the Kasakai Ideas episodes recently, when I was interviewing Prashant, Prashant happened to say that nothing has changed, but a lot has changed. I'd like to hear your view on that.
My view on Prashant? Sure, I can give you my view on Prashant. Uh,
No, I love my job. Please don't do that.
Prashant is like the oracle at ideas. He says things and then you really have to think about those things. I don't know if I agree. There's a lot of things have changed, right? But the question is this change scary to us, or is this change an opportunity to all of us? All of us being, humanity. And is it going to drive the better of humanity, or is it going to drive the worst of humanity? And I think it's an opportunity because I'm an internal optimist. I think it's an opportunity to drive the best out of all of us and use it to our advantage. To come together and act together and put our differences aside and focus on overcoming the common threat, which is an illness or economic threat, and not delve into our differences. So I see it as an opportunity to get closer together and help each other out more than focus on our differences as people.
Indeed, turn your threats
So I
into
think a lot has
opportunities.
changed and a lot will change. That's right.
Indeed. Right. Right. You just mentioned something to the effect of Prashant being the oracle. This is something coming from me personally. When I look up, or I've asked this question to Sanjay. I never had the good fortune of asking this to Ravi, but I'm asking it to you. Whenever we talk about the executive committee, or we talk about the bosses and the boss of the bosses, we have a theme song playing in our head with their lives. I'll just tell you what it is like. So when I think of Prashant, I think there's shaman music playing in the background. There's
Mm-hmm.
Zen, there's peace. When I think about you, I think of the Rocky Balboa theme song playing in whatever you're doing. So, da-da-da. I'm sorry. So,
Thank you.
tell us about your day. What is your day like? What exactly
Uh,
is your day divided into?
yeah, usually, like this morning, I just came back from a walk, so I try to get up early enough to take a walk around one of the beautiful lakes here in Minneapolis, which takes about 45 minutes. So I did that this morning, which gives me a little bit of time to get my thinking together. Then I usually check in LinkedIn and communicate with the world, the hospitality world on LinkedIn. And then it's pretty similar to what we're doing now. I get on interviews or conversations with either news, or maybe I have a recorded interview for a future podcast episode that I'm currently releasing, or some other blog post or something like that. Then I usually get on calls, which I will do after this conversation, with people within ideas about projects that we're doing, or strategic conversations about the future of ideas. And then obviously there's emails as well that come in throughout the day. So I'm trying to stay balanced, which is critical. I think especially in these times, as everyone is working from home, I always emphasize the need for a good, healthy mental balance as well. As we're working from home, and I'm sure you know that we get sucked into work, and the work tends to take over the life. So it's important to keep the work-life balance.
Indeed.
And
Well,
one of the things I'm telling everyone is, usually we commute from work to home, and there is this break that everyone takes while you're sitting in the bus or the car or the subway. Now we don't have that, so everyone needs to take a mental commute for 20 minutes, go around the lake or go around the house, or get into your own mind space and commute mentally from work to private or to your life. So you make that very conscious break between your work life, which is at home, and your private life that's also at home. And that's
that,
critical.
that's a very important cue that I'm taking away. Well, I was speaking with my family members the other day, and I think the commute that you just mentioned is an inherent part of our life now, and I think nobody can do without it. And that's a very good way of putting it out. Just go out, take a walk, and commute mentally away from work so
Correct.
that you can come back to home. I think
Correct.
that's the wonderful thought that you've given me for today. Speaking of walks and talking about fitness regime and things like that, just generally. Your energy is something that I found is very contagious. Talk about the selfie that you took when you were here in the Ideas Pune Center, or otherwise as well, whenever I listen to your podcasts and otherwise. What's the secret of your energy, if I may ask?
The secret to my energy, I don't really know. I just like to live a balanced, a balanced life, and I don't like to take things too serious. So I think one thing that I've learned as a person is you shouldn't take work too serious, and you shouldn't dedicate your whole life to something. Unless you're 100% passionate about it. And I'm really passionate. I love this company. I love the industry. I love revenue management and pricing. I love what I'm doing. And I just get a lot out of these interactions that I have every day with people like you or other people around the world, right? And that just feeds my own internal energy. And I'm naturally a very curious person, and that curiosity I also find keeps me more to learn and more to find out and more questions to ask. So actually, my dad, when I was about 20, he gave me a big, I don't know if you still know these Energizer bunnies. From
Of
There was
course.
a battery commercial, and the bunny keeps going and going and going.
Yeah.
So he bought me this big Energizer bunny because in his mind I always keep going and going and going. So I have it somewhere in a closet. But he was like, "This is perfect for you because you just keep going." So I guess my energy has always been with me.
Wow. On a personal note, I remember when I was with hotels, my first job, uh, it was a difficult day, too many check-ins, too many checkouts. I was sitting exasperated in the back office once my front office manager then came down and gave me a small button-looking thing and said, press. And there was Gloria Gano's I Will Survive coming out of that box. And I was like, is that really what I need? Now, when I listen to your story, my feels like, ew.
That's very cute too. That's you need a way to release, right? Or a way to decompress, right? I just have found that it's important to keep your balance and not take things too seriously, and that helps me a lot.
Right. Speaking of balance, Klaus, I think it was very simple back in the day to talk about work and life. I'm sorry, work and I'm fumbling for words here, but I hope you understand. Work-life balance is what I'm trying to hint at. When I had a definite hours of work, I had definite hours of work to go to a hotel or to my office, spend 9, 10 hours there, deal with clients, talk, come back home, and then there were things back home. Now that that line has blurred, do you really think that having a work-life balance at on all days and at all given times is possible, or is it that you two are continuously struggling? I just like to know that to make it a little more humanizing for myself.
No, everyone is struggling with that, of course, right? I don't know anyone who can actually say they have a perfect work-life balance. But I look at it not on an individual day. I look at it kind of over a period of time. So maybe one day I put in 16 hours because I start at 7 in the morning and I end at 10 in the evening. But then maybe the next day or the day after, I'm able to finish everything at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and then I'll be able to have a shorter day. So on average, you maintain that balance. I also don't mind working on weekends, right? So maybe on a when it's beautiful outside on a Thursday or Friday, I might end it a little bit earlier. But then on Saturday, I put in a few extra hours to just catch up with what I didn't do. So it's more this flexibility that you give yourself, which obviously it's not always possible when you have to go to the office and you have to sit there and you have to work on a computer. But for me, it's feasible because I work remote and all I really need is a laptop and an internet connection. So it's a bit more flexibility for me. But you look at your balance over a period of time. That's not one day, but it's over a week or over a month, and you say, okay, I work very hard on some days, but then on other days I'll be able to rebalance that.
All right. Well, speaking of a month tells me about a time frame. I've been in my house for the last 150 days. And for an
Wow.
avid traveler like you, I'm sure it must be daunting to be at home. I mean, I'm not quite sure as to what your schedule has been like and whether you've not, been traveling or not. I travel the world through your eyes. I look at your Instagram feed, and that has wonderful pictures from around the world.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
So there are two things that spark my interest here. A is tell us. about one adventurous trip that you've taken, one travel story that you could share with all of us? And B, as soon as this lockdown and this, the whole COVID thing gets done with, where would you be traveling to first?
I think the most, I mean, there's many stories that I have from traveling around the world, and I used to work, or I have worked, I have traveled about 200 days every year for the last, I guess, 15 years or so. So this is very unusual that, I haven't really sat in a plane for close to 3 months now. I guess the most recent crazy travel story was that I got stuck in New Zealand in April when the whole lockdown happened around the world. I was on a trip which was supposed to be part of New Zealand and Australia. We had planned that for a long time. We took off early March, hearing about the virus, but being confident that in New Zealand it's not going to have a big impact because it's obviously far away. And then we got there, and then within 10 days or so, the country shut down. We were in a camper van. We had to find shelter because they didn't allow anyone to be in camper vans anymore. So we had to find an Airbnb very quickly, which was also a challenge. And then we had to just stay there until we could find a flight out, which also took 3 weeks to actually get on a flight back to the US. So I think that was an interesting experience, both from dealing with travel companies in times of crisis, observing a country like New Zealand, which has done extremely well during this whole episode over the last few months, and then just being on the flight back to the US in the midst of the crisis. It was the 17th of April, which was kind of the lowest travel day that the US had historically. So it was just all these things coming together was a pretty intense travel experience.
So while you were traveling, were you at all worried, scared, any emotion that you had that wasn't making you very comfortable?
Yeah, we took a lot of precautions, right? Had the masks on, and we actually made sure that we have a middle seat on the plane from New Zealand to the US. So we spent a little bit extra money to block that middle seat for us as well, so nobody would sit, next to us. It was a little bit uncomfortable in the first flight because the flight was full with people. There wasn't any social distancing really on the plane. It was 100% packed. And that made me a little bit uncomfortable, but we didn't get any infections. Then once we got to the US, the airline in the US actually managed it very well. So it was interesting to see the difference between the first airline and the second airline, and how taking care of people and prioritizing health and safety makes a big difference in your journey. I would feel 100% comfortable now getting on a plane. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Indeed. Well, that sounds wonderful. All right. So, well, moving on, Klaus, thank you so much for sharing all that you've shared so far. I think I'm beginning to conclude this interview. And in conclusion, there are two questions that I'd like to ask you. Is if there is a book that you're presently reading that you'd like to talk to us about, and I think the world knows it. You've always given wonderful messages out. You started out with one, but then still, if you have another message for our Ideas fam that you'd like to go out and give out today.
Okay. Yeah, I think the book that I've just finished reading is called Sapiens. It's well known. It was written, I think, in 2011, and it's really about the history of humans, or humankind, and the challenges with that history, and kind of a little bit of explanation why we are who we are as humans. And then it also looks into the future, kind of the risk and opportunities associated with society over the next few years. A very fascinating book, probably one of the best ones that I've read recently. So I would highly recommend that to anyone in the audience here that's listening. For the Ideas family that's listening or watching this, I have to say, I cannot be prouder of everyone around the world. It's been incredible as an executive to see how everyone has come together as a family, how everyone has put all of their effort and their energy in making sure that the clients around the world are really taken care of. I must say that not just because I work for Ideas, but as an individual. I've seen incredible examples of teamwork, people coming together around the world, focusing on what's really important, which is making sure that hotels, are priced properly during these very difficult times between cancellations and hotel openings, hotel closings and all that. And it's been very, very encouraging and very energizing to me to see a lot of the barriers coming down, departments working together, really the whole world of ideas pulling together to make sure that that the clients and our customers and the hotels around the world are taken care of, and that's been incredible.
I think I'd just like to echo that, and although I may not have the kind of words that you elaborated this beautifully, but the biggest success that I probably saw on a personal level was I've never seen support operate 24/7, not being within office, working from home and then to operating 24/7, and I think that is a commendable feat to achieve for any company, and Ideas is doing it well. So yeah, that
That
speaks
was
volumes of how successful that has been.
yeah, it was incredible to see that within, I guess, a week or so, the whole company moved virtual. Everyone went home and took their computer equipment with them and started working from home. And the company just was able to, without missing a beat, really maintain the momentum. Absolutely incredible, right? And as you said, you've been at home for 150 days. I hope you get to go out once in a while, but
Of course, yes.
there's a lot of these stories around the world where we've just decentralized the entire company, and we, instead of having 5 offices, now we have 500 offices, right? Everyone having their little mini space, like I do.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Well, this has been a very insightful conversation, as have been all my Kasakai Ideas interviews, Klaus. Thank you so much for joining in. I really hope that this message gets out to everyone in the Ideas fam. I hope everybody enjoys this video, and especially Liz and Heidi, if you all are listening and watching this, I don't wear this t-shirt on calls. I wear a plain t-shirt to abide by rules. Just
Well, thanks for
thank
having me. It's always great to talk to you, and it's great to talk about other things than just business.
indeed, Klaus. Thank you so much for joining in, and I look forward to more such conversations with you in the future.
Perfect, great, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye bye.